All right, good morning. Happy Good Friday. We have a treat today. This is our first, as far as I know, the only time we've had an exclusive report out that is under the leadership of Mike King and External Affairs. So all the things you're going to be hearing about today are under the umbrella of External Affairs. Awesome, yeah? All right. How many people like to learn new things? A few of you? Awesome, great. So I'm going to encourage you again to seek out opportunities in Denver Water to work with in your team and across your team in rapid improvement events or any sort of problem solving. You really get a chance to learn new things, and I find that generally refreshing. And with that, I'll hand it over to Jean.
Okay, so I'd like to invite our first team up, the billing discrepancy process.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining our report out. First off, allow me to introduce the members of this event. We have Carintha Ragland, Carol, she just changed it, she's a customer care representative, Tanisha Lucas from Quality Assurance, Tara Cosby from also a customer care rep, Kimberly Unger from Public Affairs, Marissa Tolmich, also a customer care rep, Michelle Garfield, manager of customer care, and Sean Ornelas from Field Services. We accomplished a lot this week, but we couldn't have done it without the help of some outside members. So allow me to list those that were instrumental in helping us get through this process. They were Jim Doerr, Maya Craig, Christy Owen, Kyle Webb, Todd Blake, Debbie Batt, Matt Larson, Dan Tafoya, Pam Williams, Billy O'Brien, and the customer court team. And of course, let us not forget Jean, who walked us through this entire process. What was the purpose of this event? The purpose of the event was to identify gaps in our billing adjustment processes and to learn to be proactive in our customer communication around billing discrepancies and to educate customers on how to learn to see the gaps in their bill on usage versus actual consumption.
So within our current state process flow map, we were identifying some areas within the billing discrepancies, some areas of improvement that we could work on. One of them we found was the bill was not clear, so it was hard for customers to follow the bill and to understand what was going on. There was no upfront communication to the customer of high or lower than normal billing discrepancies, so that we didn't have a way to communicate that to them. They just ended up with an adjusted bill in the mail with no real explanation as to why. So those were some of the things we wanted to work on. Within our Kano diagram, in finding the voice of the customer, we identified some of the basic specified and the lighter needs that the customer would want. A couple of the basic needs were the water department, so they're basically going to expect clean water, which is on demand for them at their sink or wherever they need that. A couple of the specified needs that we found were self-service, so they would request a area online to adjust accounts and things like that, which we have, and then also a quick turnaround time. So they send a request to us, and we're able to complete that task quickly for them. Some of the things that we found that they would be delighted to have would be professional help to find leaks. So, we're not plumbers, but, customers do like if we can help them out a little bit in identifying leaks in their system. And then also low use incentives, so incentives for them to have low water use are a couple of things that they are delighted to have.
Good. So during our current state left brain, right brain activity, just to touch on some of the points that Carintha mentioned as well, our customer bills are just really confusing. So there's too many areas, there's too many line items where there's charges or credits listed in areas, and they just don't make sense. The balance that the customer's supposed to pay isn't clear to them. So that makes it really difficult also for the customer care reps to explain it, which just leads to more calls. In addition, because of the confusion on the bill, we've actually lost some trust with our customers based on our customer survey this past year. And then something we identified in the RAE is that we also found a bunch of letters that we send to the customers that are inconsistent. The messaging isn't clear, it's confusing, and it can really turn a simple call or simple adjustment or discrepancy on the bill into a bowl full of worms. So then moving into our target state, our goal is really to resolve all of those issues. We want to provide a clear and transparent communication to our customers, most specifically the bill with any changes on their bill or any credits or charges that they may have. And then in addition, we want to create some consistent communication if we are doing work on their meter or anything that's being sent out to their property, as well as proactive education to the customers so they can do it themselves. And this, we hope, will build a happy partnership with our customers, and they'll be extremely satisfied.
So after working through our current and target states, we were able to identify a lot of areas for improvement, which was a little bit overwhelming to just look at when it was spread around the room. We took all of those pain points, though, and categorized it with our gap analysis, and we're really able to break it down into about 6 or 7 specific areas that they fell into. With those areas, then we did our problem statements to figure out, what is the real issue with all of those problems. That developed into our what is the root cause, and then that led into, well, what can we do to change that? So we've got quite a few experiments that we're going to be rolling out and implementing as early as next week. Some will take slightly longer, but we've got quite a few that we're able to roll with.
So as everyone mentioned, one of the biggest pain points for both customer relations employees and our customers is that the bill summary at the very top of the bill isn't clear, it doesn't show adjustments, and on cancel rebill processes, it comes up as a corrected charge, which the customer had no previous communication, so they had no clue what it is. And then on top of that, it doesn't add up. The math doesn't make sense. So that confusion then led to customer phone calls. So with that, the team decided to reach out to Matt Larson and find out, can we change that? And turns out we can. So now there will be an adjustment line item right at the bill summary. So any kind of changes or adjustments we have to make will show right there. And then the best part is the math easily adds up so the customer can understand it. And then as far as the customer communication pieces, before we were sending them letters at the end of doing something, and they were full of jargon, they were long, and giant blocks of text, and they just didn't really make sense, which then turned into customer phone calls. So we went back and looked at them and revised them to shorten them down, provide clear communication on what we really needed them to know, and then we updated it into the Denver Waters brand voice. Along with that, we wanted to provide education to help the customer do things themselves and give them some kind of action, and those will be accompanied with the letters. So the 2 that we really highlighted were self-audits, performing self-audits to check for leaks, and then also just a basic understanding of how your meter and your ERT works.
And then also within that, we had reviewed and updated or improved multiple standard operating processes in order to stay consistent throughout training in all departments that are affected, in order to encourage proactive communication with all customers, even if it's an unusual case scenario. And also to encourage one-call resolution and reduce rework, specifically multiple truck rolls. Also within that, we were able to create an easier, more efficient call center resource on troubleshooting a confusing high bill with the customer on the front end. Then we move on to our training plan, and this is to implement training, maybe some refreshers throughout all departments affected in the updated SOPs or processes, that including the call center, business support team, CSF, field techs, to overall encourage better communication with the customer.
Thank you. So the way we're going to track all of this and make sure that we're successful or identify gaps is we've created a customer care process control board. Here we're going to have all of our metrics posted. We will meet on a monthly basis. Identify gaps, reasons for the gap. Hopefully we're going to be doing a lot of celebrating because we're successful. But this again will be a monthly meeting for right now to identify things. The metrics that we are working with, Ultimately, we want to gain trust from the customer on their bill. That we probably won't see until our end user summary. We hope that a lot of these things will measure up to that. So in the meantime, what we're going to do is measure calls into the call center and truck rolls. The calls that we're looking at are the high bills and the adjustment calls. What we did is we took a 3-year average by month, and we're going to compare them to 2018. Our ultimate goal is a 25% reduction. So it's going to take some time to get some of these processes in place. So we're going to do that by 10, 15, 25% within the next 90 days. Same thing with the truck rolls. However, trucks, we're looking at totals for 2017, and we'll compare those month over month that way. And then what are we going to do with all this stuff? Our communication plan, the primary function of this is going to be held at our process control board, where we'll meet, the team will meet for the 30, 60, 90 day to make sure we put in countermeasures if things aren't moving along. And then going forward, we'll continue to meet there. It might come to a bi-weekly meeting or whatnot, depending upon the data. We don't want to waste people's time. We'll continue to be a part of team stand-ups, staff meetings, anybody that's impacted by any of these changes, ongoing basis for that. And then our completion plan, what we have left to do, it's a lot of this is mostly follow-up information. This team was incredible with what they implemented during those 4 days. They worked their tails off, stayed late, moved forward, they did a lot, so I'm very proud to be a part of this. Some of the key things that we're looking at, we're going to meet with accounting because we're evaluating the cancel rebill process. We've done this since the implementation of CCMB. Thinking it's a pain point on accounting side, us and the customer. So we're meeting with them, and there might be a possibility we can go away with that and just put adjustments on the customer's bills, which will hopefully create less calls into the call center. Big piece of this is the training and updating the letters. They're already in motion. It's just implementing, putting things in place with that as it goes forward, and waiting on some of these other things to update some of the letters as well. And then the bill summary. We've got that in motion. We just have to meet with marketing and put it on the backlog list and get it going. So lots was accomplished.
So the lessons learned. We learned a lot. We learned how disconnected departments are with processes and procedures, how many different areas are impacted by changes. It's important to pass on knowledge and impacts to your team or the rest of the organization. It's important to communicate in a friendly voice, even in written forms. Also, it doesn't require major change to make things better. So how we felt tired, but we also felt fulfilled. We're also excited for these changes. We're thankful that everyone is going to support us, and the members of the event worked great together. So the core values, integrity, we focused on being transparent with our messaging, a vision. We visualized a way to empower our customers to take accountability and create the resources to help that happen. Our passion, we displayed the energy and enthusiasm to come up with solutions. Excellence, throughout the event, we always focused on the customer. Respect, we respect our customers, our team, our coworkers in making changes to the bill and how we communicate discrepancies.
Any questions? Wow, yay.
Nice job, team. All right, I'd like to call John Plonsky up next. He's going to be doing a 30-day update on their water audit event.
You can probably toss some of these out if you wanna. Good morning, everyone. I'm John Plonsky, Customer Service Field Manager. And with me today is Kevin Vitry. He's a Supervisor in Field Service. He's helping us out today because James Walker, who is the team lead for this, isn't here with us this morning. But I'm here to report out a 30-day update for our water audit rapid improvement event, which is part of the customer experience. And I want to just go quickly this morning. Our team, just to remind everyone, is Derek Kent, James Walker and Wale Williams, Derek Kent, and Bert Vanderland from CSF. We have Christy Owen, Jessica Mahaffey, and Billy O'Brien, and myself. So, as you know, over time, Denver Water, some organizational priorities change, and some legacy processes continue to exist. And last year, there was a reorganization from Conservation Field Service into CSF. So one of the things we needed to do was to look at some processes that existed before. And when we looked at that, we determined that there was a need for action in improving some of our processes. So our call to action was to look at the water audit field activities that result as leak adjustments and high bill follow-up actions. So these were all treated as follow-up sort of secondary events to when customers would call in complaining about a leak or a high bill. So customers have complained about having to schedule a separate appointment to actually get service. And we, at the time, only had 2 technicians that were dedicated to perform water audits throughout the whole service area. So as you can imagine, those appointments were really lengthy. They were driving all over our service area. We weren't being real efficient in our operations. So the scope of this event is basically to improve our operational efficiencies and educate customers on their water use, at the same time from improving our operations from the time the call center gets the customer's call to when we actually perform the work in field service. So here are a few metrics that we have going on, and we started this event in the beginning. It's the first event for the core team because we want to get ahead of irrigation season. So that was really important to start with. The only problem in doing that is because the water is not, outdoor irrigation is not on, we haven't been able to experiment in some regards to actually doing a full-scale audit, so to speak. So what we're trying to do is really our takeaway is a first trip resolution. So when a customer calls in for a high bill, what we're going to try to do is reach the customer when we show up, try to get access, have an exact or window appointment, be able to meet with the customer, get inside, look at their toilets, drop dye tabs, and I handed out a packet that shows a sample of what is going to be left at the customer's premise if they're not around, and also we can mail these out to customers as well. So Jessica and the marketing team did a really super fabulous job in putting these together. So we're looking at decreasing our average cycle time, our number of water audits, and some of this is going to happen with the call center really being a little bit more proactive and asking some open-ended questions of the customer, trying to get some better information up front. And we may be able to prevent, and like the last event said, in reducing our number of truck rolls. We also have a couple of things that we still need to work on as far as our implementation plan. We are in the process of creating those customer messages and standard operating procedures for customer care and also for field service. So we have a training plan in place for that. And I'm going to have Kevin go over that here in a minute. This is our completion plan where we stand today. So Jessica created this nice handout bifold with the die tabs. So those are already been implemented. We have with the last event as well, we're looking at the leak adjustment process and firming that up. We have few other processes to work on. We're mostly in yellow here because, again, like I said, we're early in the process in terms of where we are in the season. So I expect these to turn green, like the grass, next month. And with it, with that, here's a few insights that we invited the core team or the RIE team back last week, and we came up with a few insights. So again, I talked about the cards. Kevin's going to talk about this train-the-trainer approach that we're taking with field service on our training plan. We understand that clear, concise field notes really help the call center and able to answer the customer questions. We know that scheduling capacity issues may exist. I know one of the takeaways from our experiments is some of the field folks are a little concerned about the time it's going to take if we're going to spend more time in the customer. So if they got other things on their plate, it's going to take more time and effort and energy. We're thinking that our estimations are going to be good in terms of what we're going to be doing is expanding the constant flow, check for constant flow field activity. And generally that will expand about probably double in length from, let's say maybe, I think it's around 15 to 30 minutes. And I think that's going to prove out. So again, we've got some experimenting that's going to still need to take place. So other insights, we will look at tracking the number of actual leaks found versus just high bill issues. And I think overall we just have a little bit more at work to do, but Kevin's going to talk a little bit more about our training.
Thanks, John. So yeah, like what John was saying, we kind of took this approach of we're going to have a constant flow FA and then we have the water audit FA. The constant flow FA will be more focused inside with the customer. And then once it gets to irrigation season, then we'll move, okay, we've done the inside, now let's try and get outside, rather than scheduling in a whole nother FA and having everybody have to come back out for a second trip. So that whole one trip resolution, that's kind of the goal. So we kind of took our whole group of guys and we started looking at each one and saying, okay, this guy is great, this guy maybe needs some help or whatever. And then we just decided, you know what, let's just put everybody in training. We have guys who have been in our area for less than a year, and we have guys who've been there for 30 years. So we kind of took James and Wale. They're the expert when it comes to inside and outside. Put a guy with each one of them 2 weeks ago. And then last week we put 4 guys with each one of those guys. So we had 6 people getting trained. We came out with 5 trainers and 1 maybe needing 1 more week, a little bit more work on it. So I think it's good we're running everybody through this process because, I don't know, in a lot of ways too, field service would use conservation as a crutch. If I can't find out what's going on, we'll just send conservation. They'll figure it out. And that's what we don't want. So we want all of our guys to be able to get that same quality service. So next week we're sending out, I think 6 more guys with these guys. And hopefully by the next week, everybody should be trained on the constant flow process inside. And it's not that they're needing training. To me, we kind of looked at it as, we just want to make sure everybody's doing the same steps. When you look at a toilet, we don't want to just, oh, it's good, or whatever, drop a dye tab, you're good. We wanted it to be, no, take the lid off, look at the field tube, flush it, make sure it's stopping, and all that whole process. So that's kind of what we're doing. Since John, he mentioned that it's not irrigation season, so I imagine once end of April, May comes around, we're just going to start it all over again and work more on the clock issues, the irrigation and sprinkler heads and all that good stuff. So I think it's going good. I'm glad we did it the way we did it, because everybody needs a refresh every now and then. So yeah, I think it's going good. So anything else you want to add, John? Or good?
Any questions?
When you spoke about doing a water audit on residential, and how involved will that be?
So the way we're looking at like a water audit, we'll turn on 1, 2, maybe 3 zones with the customer, with the thought being that, okay, this is how you do it. Now you can do the remaining 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 zones, whatever they have. You go to a customer's house, and a lot of times you ask them where their inside valve is, and they're like, well, I don't know, don't you know? It's not my house. So a lot of people have no idea how many zones they have, how much time is on a zone. So I think the thought is kind of trying to educate the customer. And then maybe even next summer, then they can do it on their own.
So will this be a scheduled appointment, or you'll do it
We're going to try and do it with the constant flow if we can. Right now we can't, obviously it's not irrigation season, but yes, once that comes around, we're going to work inside. If we find everything's okay and there's no issues with the bill, we're going to try and get them to go outside and look at their irrigation clock. And I know, like John said too, we want to work the call center so they can schedule to make sure the customer's there. It's hard to do a constant flow when nobody's home. I mean, we can look at the meter and see that it's holding, but we don't know if it, if there's, we're only there for a minute or two. We need to get inside, to make sure that the flapper's okay. And so I know I want to do more windows and appointments with the customer as well. So, yeah.
Is this just residential or would it do commercial?
Yeah, it's just going to be residential. Yeah. Anybody else?
One question. So it seems like your marketing currently is focused on leaky toilets, which probably, I'm guessing is probably the highest loss inside use. Is that why we're finding that? Yeah, I think the question is the largest issue or source of waste water loss is leaky toilets. And yeah, I think the question is there going to be more outdoor educational or irrigational information that's going to be produced, and I think we will. I think we've just hit the tip of the iceberg as far as what information that we can produce for customers. I know we have some information on our website right now regarding doing some self audits. So it goes through the toilets and it does have some information on there about reminder to check your faucets and other fixtures and your clock and all that stuff. So I think there's some videos that we can produce. We can get creative in this customer education piece of it. So yes.
I can add a little bit more from the marketing side of that. That's definitely something that we are always talking about, but this year one of the things that we're doing differently with the water efficiency plan is that we're now targeting people based on what they need. So if their indoor water use bills are higher, then we would target them with indoor stuff that they could do for self-audits. If it's their outdoor use that's higher, we can target them with more of the outdoor audits and that kind of stuff. That stuff is on the website, but then we're also going to try to we would love to have an email database that we can just email them directly with additional materials. And so if that didn't work, we could follow up by email and give them additional resources and keep going back and forth with them. So that's something that marketing is definitely working on.
And there's also a tie-in to the water efficiency plan. So I believe there's the approach is going to be towards water efficiency. So I believe we're going to be looking at some targeted customers that we can really move that needle on conservation. So we'll be running some reports and identifying those folks. It'll be a separate process, but we're going to try to increase the customer awareness for those inefficient customers as well. So I would just like to add one last thing in that I was thinking about this. It's like a well-run orchestra, right? So you got to have a lot of players in this whole process, and if you have a few folks that are out of tune or not on the same sheet of music, things could not turn out as well. So I think we're really doing pretty good in terms of having all these folks in place with marketing and the call center and customer service field. And it is a difficult task to get that consistent messaging out there, but we're really striving for the true customer experience and improving the feedback that we get from customers. So I think we're heading in the right direction. Any other questions? Lots of other questions. Yes.
So we currently, for the call center, we have a chart that tells us, how many window appointments we can schedule for, like cycles 1 through 4, as an example. Do you guys see with changing what our constant flow of activity will be now, that we're going to have to reevaluate, the number of workload that we can put on it?
Yes, the question is about scheduling and the window appointments and how we best make that happen. So yes, there are challenges that we're going to have with identifying those appointments and resources and capacities that we have, but I think we'll be able to meet all those needs. But there's a few more meetings that we're going to have to work through this as we ramp up, especially in irrigation season. So, Al, you had a question?
Yeah, is there any way we could send any information to the sprinkler companies? Kind of, because a lot of hours we get the timer set by sprinkler companies, they don't even know what we say they have. I know it's that,
That's a good thought. So the question is, can we send some information out to your sprinkler companies that service the area? And we didn't really address that in the event, but we can definitely put that on our parking lot. Anybody else? Thank you.
Great. So David started off by saying it was a treat. It really has been for me. This has been a remarkable experience. For 9 months, I've been able to work with the folks on our customer service side, and I'm continually amazed at the dedication and commitment to making sure that our customers have a world-class experience. And it's something I think we need to reinforce. Not only did we say in our strategic plan that this is, the customer service experience is what we're all about. When you remember that we're a monopoly and we don't necessarily have to do that, and the day-to-day interactions that I have, whether I'm dealing with my Cabela's club card or with the cable company, these entities that make money and their customer service experience is nowhere near where we are. That's something I hope we take very seriously and take a tremendous amount of pride in, because it is incredible. Whether it's auditing and helping our customers understand education, right? We're educating our customers. That is a unique customer experience that I don't think you see in most customer care service centers around the country. That's a unique experience. The commitment to training, right? We're going to make sure that our people understand our values and that we reinforce those on a daily basis. So everybody who comes in contact with a customer understands that that's the primary thing we're concerned about. That's exceptional. When I got to watch the folks wrestling with the discrepancies in bills as they tore apart our billing process, the amount of information that we need to communicate and then put it all back together, that was really an eye-popping experience for me. Part of what was eye-popping is our customer service is so good. When I watch what our people do and listen to the interactions with customers, I'm continually amazed. But in the spirit of continuous improvement, we see a 7% drop in a metric that we're concerned about. That's unacceptable, even though we're still head and shoulders above what most people do. And so they tear it apart, we come back better, we have a better message, a more consistent message, and the customer comes away with an experience that just won't be beat. So thank you is really what I want to say to the folks who engaged in both of these processes. It was a privilege to be able to watch and learn, continue to learn more and more every day about what you do, and I'm just amazed. So thank you for what you do for Denver Water, and thank you for what you do for our customers.
Okay, so a quick quiz. I'm going to give you an acronym and see if you can tell me what it is. If I said WGLL, does anybody besides the CI folks know what that means? Bueller? What does good look like? And so what you saw today in terms of these teams and the report out from John is what good looks like. So they got in, got their hands dirty, rolled up their sleeves. How do we get good at improving things that we do at Denver Water? Do we read a book? Do we watch a video? No. We get with our peers, our people in the organization. We get dirty, we get in there. Like I think someone said, oh my gosh, there are so many things that we had to work on, but they sort of boiled them down to the key issues and kind of, did we solve all of it? No. And so it's not important that we make it perfect. We make it a little bit better. So I'll leave you with that. Everybody have a great weekend and be safe.